Welcome everyone to the show. Man, I feel like I've been streaming every day for the last week or two, and it's only going to get hotter. This is Founders Week. Welcome, welcome. This is going to be a good stream. I know the rest of them will be great too, but I'm glad to have Coast and Stoic on today and to talk about some of the products they've been building. One in particular, of course, the Fiat on ramp that has been just gaining momentum. A lot of stats. We're going to go over some stats and metrics as well, but really cool to have a native stablecoin, one of maybe many coming to PulseChain, and just the ability to transfer money back and forth. People not have to use Coinbase or otherwise, and just get more economic energy in the ecosystem. So again, Founders Week, I got a bunch of people lined up, a bunch of different founders. Everyone on. There definitely want to have more people this week, but scheduling conflicts or otherwise, just couldn't happen. But there's definitely, these are some of the projects I want to highlight that I really think are good for the ecosystem. And yeah, I'm glad to be doing Founders Week this week to have some of the teams on to highlight some of the stuff they're doing, get people a chance to get access to them and ask them questions. And otherwise, could be win launch. Some of them are win launch, and some of them are some of them are like fix this bug, or maybe it's just, hey, I want to know how this stuff works. So we'll go through that. Go for about an hour or so. Again, today we'll kick it off with Xerox Coast. Tomorrow we have Geraldo from Mintra coming on. Wednesday we have Maximus guys. And then Thursday we have PH Ecosystem with Buck and Dylan. Very excited. First time to have Buck on the show. So very cool. Dylan's been on a few times. First time Buck. I think this week, the first time for founders. Only one I haven't had on before has been Buck, I believe. And then Friday we got Stu from Tetra coming on. And Neil as well, Neil for T-Shares, to talk about that really cool project, which I'm excited about as well. And then also on Friday is demo day. So we'll have a morning stream with Tetra, and then we'll have a afternoon demo day where anyone who's building an ecosystem, either like a website or a product or whatever, you can come sign up. There's a thread. I'll put the thread in the chat here in a minute. Just put your name on there or DM me, contact me somehow. I'll put you on the list of people who I know are coming, so I can kind of, if it's first come, first serve, whoever gets in, I'll get you in on stream for about 10 minutes or so, do a demo, let people ask questions, and then we'll rotate through this next one. Also, KG will be helping me kind of host that one too. It'll be around for a while. Sounds like he's gonna do an internet money demo and then stick around for a while as well. We got Pulse Wallet. We've got a few other ones that are becoming popular or more well-known in the community, and very excited to highlight some of the work that the builders have been doing in this community so far. It's been amazing. 4 months in PulseChain. We're literally just getting started. I know it's always you're early. We're just getting started. Zoom out, all this stuff. But I think everyone's tired of being early on one side, and the other part is it's just so cool to see this much potential and this much momentum in one super exciting ecosystem, RH ecosystem. PulseChain, PulseX, and all the beautiful products that are built to complement it or bring people in one way or another. So without further ado, I'll get to chat in just a moment. Let's bring our first founder in for Founders Week. This is Stoic from Xerox Coast. How's it going, man?
Max, good to be here again. Appreciate you going through all the headache involved in putting this together and all the coordination. So kudos to you. Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know what you're talking about. I literally just clicked a couple buttons and all the thumbnails appeared. All the scheduling appeared. I didn't have to talk to anyone. It is. I'm going to shout out myself real quick. It's been a hectic time in the last couple weeks putting all this stuff together. However, that's what it takes. You got to put in the work to get the results. So I don't care. A lot of stuff is thankless. I know you do a lot of thankless stuff as well, building these amazing products. So I always appreciate the shout out. There's a lot of work that goes into this stuff, but that's what you got to do. To me, it's just part of the experience. Like it's a known thing that needs to happen in order for excellence to occur. So I'm willing to put in the work. So are you.
Yep. It's become fairly obvious in the last couple of months that if we don't do it ourselves, it's not going to get done. So might as well just roll up the sleeves, eh?
Pretty much. I think since we haven't seen Richard stream for a while, maybe he'll come back one day, maybe he won't. You never know. But I think it's been one of those things where a lot of people in the community have just started, they keep building, right? Nothing has really changed as far as I can see too. I mean, there's been news here and there, there's been this and that, drama back and forth, but nothing's really changed as far as getting this ecosystem rolled out and all the products people need to use it and just continuing to, hey, hopefully one day we'll get a bull market again and the red candles turn to green. But until then, I don't know. There's plenty of stuff to do if you're looking for stuff to do. If you're looking for stuff to complain about, plenty of that as well. If you look for it, it's kind of just what you're looking for, I guess. So first question right off the bat before we get into Coast: when will PLS get to 10 cents? Your reaction, Stoic?
I mean, sooner rather than later, or never. It's really, really difficult to say. Price predictions are not my forte. Every time I open up a leverage trade on Famous, I get liquidated. So I'm not the person to speak to about this, I'm afraid. You would imagine
sounds reasonable.
An upward trend, right? Upward trends are good, and downward trends are bad, and we just got to sit and wait. If you've got any idea of when that would happen, you can make yourself a rich person by leverage trading that.
There are products that are available to do that. Again, we got Buck and Dylan coming on Thursday, and we're going to deep dive into all that, and it's going to be great as well. But yeah, these are the products. These are banking products. There's casino products. There's saving products. There's the city is building a 1 or 5 of everything. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. And yeah, best prediction I've seen all day is it could or could never get there. That's kind of my answer every time I get asked predictions too. It's like nobody really knows. I don't know what people are. I mean, it's not a stupid question or anything. I'm just saying in general, like anyone gives you an answer is either doing TA, which hopefully they're really good at. Some people are. Or they're just basing off their, macro environment feelings and otherwise, but it's all just guesses at the end of the day. Nobody really knows the future. So we hope it's sooner rather than later, but we will see. We'll see. Time has a tendency of unveiling what actually happens, what doesn't. Anyways,
you're probably back into a number by thinking about the amount of economic energy you'd have to add to the chain in order to get to a point where it was all put into that one token, coin in this case. So like look at the amount of value coming across the bridge, look at the amount of value coming in through Coast, and other cross-chain swap features that are being brought out by people. And then you would have to look at, all right, how many times do we have to do that in order to get to 10 cents, right? You could figure something out, but then you've also got to consider that capital that's coming across the bridge is split across a whole bunch of different assets, not just Pulse. So you can
that's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are looking at stable coins. I guess it's a good quick question too. Is what in order for things to pique your interest for things going back up? Is it just a massive movement of stable coins into different positions, or what do you tend to look for stuff like that?
Not necessarily. I mean, you would want to see more economic energy coming on chain than going off chain, but it's a little bit difficult to look at just the bridge to do that, right? Because you see big amounts of capital going off chain, and then you see big mints happening on CST. And vice versa, right? Like one day last week, we had $50,000 or 50,000 CST be burned, but not necessarily all of it left the ecosystem, right? Like some of it was burned, and then that same wallet bridged it back into PulseChain via some stable coins. So it's kind of all over the place, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. The overall trend is that it's been going relatively well, especially considering that it's a bear market. But you just got to keep a little bit of an eye on what the circulating supply is of those different coins on chain.
Gotcha. Yeah, I want to go into a couple. I'll put up a couple stats while you're talking.
You've got it in front of you, right?
Yeah, this is the bridge. So all the money that's on there, all the stable coins. It's been pretty stable. I think we still have like 60 million stable coins or something like that around. I feel like it's been pretty much that, and then the coin price that went up and down. That's why it's been like 140K, just maybe a couple months ago versus around 80K in there right now. But maybe some have been bridged out as well. There's probably been some of that.
Do you see any CST on there? I'm be curious to see if anyone had tried to bridge it back to Ethereum. I don't know if there's anything they can do with it back there, but that'd be weird.
Let me see if it'll show the other rows. I can search for CST. Not sure if it'll show such smaller amounts. We assume it would be like a smaller amount if they did, rather than millions of dollars. But that would be interesting. Like, what would they do with it on Ethereum versus? Okay, let's see.
I'm sure I would have heard about it. There would have been a support ticket.
Yeah. No, I don't see anything. I don't see any CST on here.
There you go. People are using it right, I suppose.
They're not bridging it back. They're not confused about how this thing works. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to give people an intro to, in case they're not familiar with Coast, kind of the mission, the vision, the products? Wait was sort of like the first entry into things, if I remember. Then it sort of evolved. I know that's a part of the Fiat on-ramp system too. Do you want to give us like a high-level overview so just get people on the same page?
Yeah, sure. When we've worked with stablecoins in the past, we really enjoyed the user experience of Trust Token, or TUSD specifically. TUSD is stablecoin on Ethereum that is 100% fiat backed. It also is non-custodial in the sense that you can mint TUSD by sending capital into a bank account, and vice versa. You can burn TUSD and get fiat back. So we tried as best we could to build the same thing with a similar user experience on PulseChain. We wanted an easy way for people to get economic energy from their bank account onto PulseChain and back. And it proves to be the easiest way to do that is by collateralizing a stablecoin that is one-to-one fiat backed on the chain. CST itself is not essential to the process in the sense that it would be great if we didn't need it, right? It would be great if we just had a big pool of every different cryptocurrency on PulseChain that users could buy and sell. That would be fantastic. We don't have that big pool of capital, unfortunately. So instead, we created this other thing, which is CST, which allows you to mint a representation of your fiat currency from your bank account, mint it on chain, and then do with it what you choose. So you can fund your digital account with Coast with a range of different payment methods. We tend to recommend that people either do a wire transfer or use ACH if you're in the US, or an international payment processor if you're not in the US, like Wise or Revolut. The reason we recommend those things is because they can do international transactions faster and cheaper and with more funding options than we can. Because that's their business. They're very, very good at doing that thing. We're better at, just doing the PulseChain integration and compatibility. So, there's multiple different ways to get dollars into your Coast account, but once it's there, getting on and off PulseChain is very easy. You either mint CST or you burn CST and exchange your fiat for that CST token on PulseChain. We've also got a couple of other features in the app that allow you to swap from CST into other things. We've integrated with another provider called Pateus. We've got basically just their widget embedded on our swap page. So you can get the best order execution possible through using that widget. And you can do it on their website as well. I'd encourage people to do that, but if you just want to stay in our environment, you can do it on our swap page. The benefit of using that feature is that you get more of whatever coin you're really after than using any individual DEX. Your order is aggregated across all of the different DEXs, all of the different liquidity pools by using that feature, which means you get the most of the coin that you want on the back end. And it's typically the case that it also burns the most PulseX, as opposed to even using like PulseX V2. It's really fantastic. So would encourage people, if they're holding CST and they want to use something else or get into something else, go and jump on the Pateus website or on our integration and use that, because you'll get the most.
Gotcha. Yeah, just flipping around too, looking at some of the liquidity and do you want to talk about some of the numbers? Because I looked at you got Coast data, sure, which talks about some of the minting and burning. Like, what? Maybe even start with this too. Like, what is minting and burning? Can you just elaborate that a little bit? Is that like some of the mechanics of the stablecoin?
Yeah, sure. So within our environment, when you create an account, it's similar to creating a bank account, which is why you need to do KYC, because it's the equivalent of creating a bank account with your local bank. The same level of knowledge about you is required by our banking partner in order to create your account. So when you get your custodial account with us, it's in your name. It's part of it's managed by Fortress Trust. I think technically the depository bank is BankProv, or the Provident Bank out of Massachusetts. So your funds are technically with them, managed by Fortress Trust. And all Coast is a tech layer that allows you to interact with that bank account through our web portal, and then link, if you're in the US, your bank account to be able to transfer funds back and forth. The minting process is actually like once you get into your funds into our ecosystem, like into your custodial account, minting really just means that you're sending funds from your custodial account to the CST collateral account, two different bank accounts with Fortress. And then that triggers an on-chain transaction that approves the address that you're connected to the website with to then mint CST. So it's a two-step process. There's a pay where you send funds between the two accounts, and then a mint where you actually create the coins on chain.
Gotcha.
And this data feed that you're showing now is, I think it's everything over $500 that gets done either minting or burning through the Coast app. It also has daily data features. If you go down just a little bit from where you are, you'll see that, we have some summary data that explains, holders, total CST minted and burned during the day, and then the amount of stablecoin that actually exists now. The data you're looking at there is from yesterday at 0 UTC, and actually today we're well over 2 million in circulating supply. So it took us about 6 weeks to get to 1 million, and it's taken us about 2 weeks to get to 2 million. So, make of that what you will, but I think the trajectory is pretty good.
Wow. Yeah, I think, you had to put on this 100K, 250K, 100 million, 2 million. Wow. It's, what does it mean to have that much, once you get to, let's say you get to 5 million, 10 million, stuff like that, what changes about what kind of effect can this have on the ecosystem, having more money into native stablecoins such as CST on PulseChain?
Yeah, I mean, there's different risks that come with PulseChain the way it is currently. One of the risks associated with it is the bridge and locking of different coins in different ways by providers of stable coins that don't want to support PulseChain. I think it's fairly obvious at this point, if companies like Circle and Tether were interested in supporting PulseChain, they would have released native coins on PulseChain now, as they've done with other non-Ethereum chains, but EVM chains. And so we can't expect them to come do that. And so the presence of their coins or tokens, on PulseChain could potentially be a negative if they choose to start blacklisting people who use the bridge, which we've seen happen. We've seen issues with multiple different providers that have VC backing, locking people out of accounts. We've got companies like PayPal who are threatening to have basically an off switch for your stable coins. It's essential on PulseChain that we have an honest broker who's going to give us a stable coin that allows for everybody to interact with it and isn't going to be subject to those different threat vectors. So the faster we can get to CST, in my opinion, being the coin that everybody is pairing things with on PulseChain, the better, because we're exclusively released on PulseChain. We're not trying to get economic energy onto AVAX, right? We're trying to take it away from everybody else and bring it here. And so the sooner that the base pair for Hex on PulseChain is CST, the better. The sooner PulseX is paired with CST on PulseX, the better. It'll give better order execution for everybody, and it will mean that we're insulated from any external risk that could come about.
So that's definitely the pros part. What about why isn't there a flood of people who just said, okay, I'm not using USDC anymore. I'm not using the bridge version, whatever. I'm just using CST. I'm only using or any other, maybe the other stable coins will be minted from Liquid Loans, Power City, and on and on. Why hasn't everyone just jumped into it? Is it just a new thing? Has it been proven, that sort of thing? Or how do you feel like you're going to gain more people participating in it?
Yeah, so I mean, there's probably going to be a critical mass of users and capital that we reach that eventually makes it more useful than it is presently. One of the big advantages of things like the stablecoin swap on PHUX is that the peg has now kind of has been held very well in the last few weeks. So we now have, I think it's more than $3 million in the USDC to CST PHUX pool. which means that because it's a stable swap pool and it has stable swap rates, this is where Proteus orders are routed in order to give you better order execution. So basically what that means is that now, because of this feature that these guys released and because they promoted the use of the CST stable pool, there you go, it's just ticked under $3 million again. But we're now at more than 2/3 of what the bridge stable pool is. And even though weekends we get a little bit of a dip in traffic, the trend's pretty obvious there that people are starting to use this more and more. So volume going through this particular stable pool swap is great. If we could get more people taking their CST out of this pool actually and putting it onto places like PulseX, that would be even better, because again, the order execution would just get that much better. So the negative right now is just the amount of capital that's in our system, right? We just passed $2 million. We're hoping to start, or hoping to keep growing at the current rate we are, if not faster. I think we've got 3,200 customers now, which is a pretty good clip. We're adding on average 42 customers a day, which is pretty significant when you start looking at 1-year growth cycles, or what we could have in terms of our user growth between now and the Bitcoin halving, for example. It's not insignificant. And not only do we have more customers coming on board, more people using CST, in the on-ramping side, we also have more people burning it, which means that they're actually getting utility from it. They're realizing that they can, instead of having to sell a coin on PulseChain, bridge it back to Ethereum, use a different off-ramping service, they can just burn their CST and get money to their bank account straight away. So the utility is being proven out over time. The more capital that comes in, the more useful it will become. And hopefully we get some similar stablecoin pools to CST and bridged USDC when things like Liquid Loans and and Power Cities stablecoin release. So hopefully then, if we get a stablecoin pool on something like PHUX, you can go between all of these things fairly easily. Max, you're muted just quietly.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just scrolling down through the products. So other stuff. I also had a question on, now that TRX Coast launched, what is the horizon for Coast, which kind of ties into this. The other products, Wait, Tide, Rise. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, sure. We're not quite done with CST. We do have some improvements that we want to make in terms of the tech stack. Some of the infrastructure in the back end is being worked on. We're releasing some RPC infrastructure on our own. We're actually, there's one sort of final piece that we need to create, which is very important for us, is being able to do gasless trades, and trades where you don't actually involve CST. So like I said earlier, we release CST because it's important to have a way to, it's probably good to have a 1-to-1 back fiat stablecoin on PulseChain anyway. But what we really want is people to be able to buy the coin that they like on PulseChain. So we've just started testing today a feature to allow you to go directly from fiat into a range of different PulseChain assets, sort of circumventing CST, although the order does still route through that. So it will mean that you can buy all of these things on PulseChain without having any pulse. So it's kind of like when the bridge was improved to remove the fact that you needed pulse to use wrapped pulse. We've kind of done the same thing. You'll be able to buy all of your favorite PulseChain assets just with fiat from the bank account with Coast. So we're working on that now. That should be out for testing in the next 2-3 weeks. We've just started releasing it our own internal portal today, actually. So once that's done, that's sort of the last big feature that we want to get out this year. And yeah, I think that's probably covers the roadmap in the short term. If you want me to talk about Wait, Tide, and Rise, I can. So Wait was a free claim that we created for people who wanted to be involved in monetizing the length of time that it took for PulseChain to launch. So it was a little bit of a meme token. It was a little bit of a way to gamify the launch of PulseChain. That project has since concluded. It stopped being useful about a month after the claim phase and minting wait is all ended. It happened about a month after PulseChain launched. Weight, however, is used in Coast. So you can utilize any weight that you got from the free claim or from the minting of your midnight bonus. And you can use weight that you've got through either of those methods or from buying on chain to reduce your fees in the Fiat on-ramp. So you can get all the way from 4% all the way down to 1%. If you're using Fiat to mint CST. It also has a benefit over on the Ethereum side. You can lock your Ethereum weight to get from stablecoins into Fiat in Coast much faster and cheaper. If we ever release CST on Ethereum, not currently in the roadmap, but if we ever were to, Ethereum-based weight would also be used for discounts over there as well for minting CST on Ethereum. So yeah, we sort of tied it into Coast. It wasn't a natural fit necessarily, but we had some discussions with our securities attorneys about, different ways to create value for weight holders. We hypothesized that maybe there could be some mechanism that allowed you to stake your weight and earn fees from the Fiat on-ramp. Unfortunately, things like that probably go a little bit too close to being securities to make us comfortable with doing them. I know some other products out there who have similar features, which is cool, but it's just not something that we were prepared to do. The same way we weren't prepared, to do a sacrifice phase. So everything you see from Coast is self-funded. We don't have like big VC operations. We're not beholden to anybody else in that way. We also didn't ask for a cent from the community. We've done all of this from scratch ourselves. Which we're pretty proud of, frankly. So that's how Weight turned out. It's a completed project at this point. It's used for discounts, and you're welcome to buy it or not, I suppose. Max, you're muted again, mate.
Got to stop doing that. Sorry. And then we got Tide and Rise.
Yeah, look, before we decided that the Fiat on-ramp was the most important infrastructure we could build for PulseChain, we previously had talked about and had started working on some different HEX derivative products that would allow you to pool resources together in order to create different stakes. There was a few different gamification elements to that, or pumpermentals. We eventually decided that we weren't creating something that was an order of magnitude better than anything else that existed. And so we decided to put it on hold. It's something we'd like to get back to if we can determine that we can create that order of magnitude benefit. But as of right now, it's kind of shelved and not moving until, like I said, we can prove that it's super, super valuable. If we can do that by fixing some of the underlying math issues that we had, then we'll go back to it. But right now, we're just trying to get economic energy on PulseChain through Coast.
Gotcha. Then we got Rise.
Rise was actually a derivative of Tide. So Tide sort of evolved, and then it had to become something else. And so both of those projects are on the back burner.
Gotcha. Yep. Just going to go to chat real quick. Also, shout out to Richard Hart. Happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday. I believe he's got to be, let's see, where's his Wikipedia article? Or not Wikipedia, whatever the wiki thing is. 40 something, 43 it looks like. Or maybe 44 now. Whoops. Magicians never age, that's what they say. So let's see. I don't know how many people I've told, been like, what it's like, I just can't trust a guy who looks like a magician. And then the day he changed the picture, I remember like messaging somebody like, hey, look, you changed this picture. Is it okay now?
It's totally fine.
So good. Totally fine now. Yeah, 43 or 40, so 79. So what is the math on that? It's got to be 44 sounds like. Yeah, 44. There we go. Happy birthday, big guy. Appreciate you. Just looking at into your hat also. Yes, the joke is he is my dad in some shape or form. We'll say that. Let's see. I got way to reduce the fees. Okay, got a question here from Denise. Could you explain the CST stablecoin, please? You create an account and then I heard Crypto Coffee talk about game pulsing. Yes, I'm a bit confused. Yeah, you want to expand on the process?
Sure. GainPulseChain.com, I think, is just his referral website. So it redirects to the referral link for Coast. We have a system built into Coast that allows you to refer a friend and earn 5,000 weight tokens when they do their first mint or burn. And then similarly, they will earn 5,000 weight tokens when you do your first mint or burn. So you both get the benefit of doing that. That's just his particular ref address. Something to note about that weight is that technically there's this entity out there similar to the OA in weight called the timekeeper. None of the weight that's being used to pay referrals within Coast comes from the timekeeper. It's all purchased on chain. So given the fact that we're having to pay out 10,000 weight per referral, that means that we have to take a lot of weight off the market on an ongoing basis in order to pay referrals. So something that will happen for as long as there's a referral program is we will continue to buy weight on chain.
Gotcha. And you want to talk about just briefly the process of setting up the account? So you type in your email, then it probably asks for more information, and then you go through some kind of verification, and then you be able to start minting coins and connect your bank account. And is it open to individuals, businesses, all those kind of things?
Yeah, sure. So when you're creating an account, like I mentioned previously, you have to provide some KYC information, which includes your physical address. If you're in the United States, it requires a social security number. It's all matched with your public information that's known about you in public records, like address information, in order to determine KYC. You can create an account as an individual, and once you have done KYC as an individual and you open your account, you actually have the option to then add an additional account in the name of a business. You can do this for an LLC that you're running as like an investment fund. You can do it as a retirement fund. You can do it as a small business or a partnership, any other sort of way you want. Any sort of business entity that you like in the US or actually internationally is allowed. In the United States, if you want to create a business account, you'll need your EIN, your employer identification number. If you're not in the US, the same way you don't need a social security number, you don't need a business identification number. So just feel free to go create an account. You should be asked for some identifying information, but it's not anything crazy. We don't ask you to write the date on a piece of paper and hold it next to your head to take a selfie or anything like that. Although
no blood samples.
That's right, no blood samples. Although there is some biometric stuff. Typically, the issues that we get during account sign up are mostly just user error with the camera. Like, a corner of a driver's license is cut off, or it's slightly pixelated, or, maybe it's a non-standard ID or a temporary ID, or something's expired. The system works pretty well, but we probably get, half a dozen errors a day out of the, 40 or 50 signups. So, 10 or 15% of people will experience some sort of issue. That happens a little bit more with international users, and there's a little bit more of a delay with international users as well, because you don't have a social security number that can be easily checked. Every single international user has to go through a manual review process with Fortress. And it's interesting that we're talking today because today's a bank holiday and Fortress are a bank. And so as a result, if you've got a support ticket with us asking for something that requires Fortress, we can't help today, unfortunately, although we will obviously try to as best we can. But some things we're hamstrung by the service providers that we have, given the fact that, like I said, we're the tech layer that operates on top of some of these other base services. The other thing to keep in mind is about, after we've gone through account sign up and you've got your account and it's activated and whatnot, it's a slightly different user experience for American users than for international users. If you're in the United States, you can fund your digital account with an ACH payment. However, you can't use a credit or debit card. Actually, in our whole site, you can't use a credit or debit card. Basically, we came to the decision to take those options out of the site because the rates we were being offered from credit card processors were just prohibitively expensive. And frankly, Max, I really don't want to enrich payment processors if I can possibly avoid it. I'd rather users get as much money as they possibly can onto PulseChain. And that goes whether we're using a service provider to do that or whether we're the payment processor. We don't want to take 5% of what everyone puts onto PulseChain. We need that capital to get onto PulseChain to start buying things over there. So we took the decision to take those functions out such that people can use cheaper things. So if you want to fund your account with a wire or an ACH in the US, you can do that. And if you're an international user, we direct people towards Wise and Revolut, or an international wire if you so choose, simply because they give you the option to use any local payment processing tool that you want. So take Australia as an example. If you're in Australia and you want to use PayID, the people who can provide PayID to you, or e-transfer in Canada, or SEPA transactions with bank integration in Europe, all of these things require that the company that's operating has a local business entity. So we cannot operate in Canada unless we have a registered business in Canada or Australia or Europe, etc. The challenge for us is that because of banking and money transmission and cryptocurrency regulations, we can't operate business entities in those countries, because if we are doing that, we will be deemed to be targeting customers in those markets. And that comes with its own level of regulatory compliance that we would have to meet. And it's not something that we have the resources to do at this time. So we would have to create a business entity in Australia, pay $40,000 in legal fees to write all the opinions to ASIC, to be able to operate, then file tax returns. It's just too heavy of a lift for like one small submarket. And even if we were to go through that whole process, we would still be more expensive than Wise or Revolut. So we just got to a point with this where like it's going to take too many resources and take too much time for us to get set up to do this. And we're going to end up taking more money out of the system than we would like to. Let's just direct people towards the tools that make sense and the tools that work. Like I've used both of those services extensively to move money from Australia to the US, and they're fantastic. Like I can start a transaction late at night in the US from an Australian bank account and wake up and the funds are in my digital account with Coast the next morning. And we just can't provide that same user experience, unfortunately. So, we just have to direct people to the tools that make the most sense. And we feel like that works for international users as well as it's going to in the short term. And at least that way, you still have sovereignty as well. Like we're not storing your payment information. All of your payment information is stored with that external service that you also do KYC with. And then if you're in if you're in Australia, you can do PayID. If you're in Canada, you can do e-transfer. And all of those things are, very similar to linking a bank account. So it was a conscious decision we made. We get questions about it all the time. Why can't you do bank integration? Well, that's the reason why, unfortunately.
Gotcha. I got a question here from Denise again. Maybe the CST operates similar to TUSD. Yeah, can you explain the difference and maybe the mechanics between TUSD and CST?
Yeah, that's very easy. TUSD is released by Trust Token, which is a company based out of Nevada. I'm not exactly sure what their current status is. It's not the Tucson Unified School District. So basically what they do, they're much smaller than Circle or Tether or DAI. The reason they're much smaller than those organizations is because they 100% back their stablecoin with fiat deposits in a bank account. Actually, about 200 different bank accounts that they use. I'm not sure of their current status because of the issues earlier this year with Prime Trust, who was their custodian. But let's just say it's all working as it's supposed to. A TUSD is always backed by a $1 bank deposit that is FDIC insured, or there's some other private insurance programs that are used that are similar. And what that means is that it's always collateralized. So you should always be able to sell a TUSD, for a US dollar that would be released to your bank account. Now, TUSD is only on Ethereum, to the best of my knowledge. We took the same operating principles and we applied them to PulseChain. And we said, okay, well, we want people to retain sovereignty. So we won't provide a wallet. You have to do everything by linking your external wallet, either with MetaMask or soon Internet Money, to the Coast app. And so you are in control of your own private keys. We don't do custody for you. And if you send money from your Coast digital account to the collateral account, basically just gives you the right to then mint CST. So it's a very similar process to what TUSD does. We've got some different security model threat vector stuff that we deal with on the back end to keep it very secure. But for you, the user, you move money easily between accounts and you mint and burn CST using a Web3 transaction with your MetaMask wallet, and then you have CST in your MetaMask wallet to do whatever you want with. One of the last big things that we need to work on is integration with internet money and maybe even Pulse wallet at some point. The issue with both of those things is that Wallet Connect, which is typically the tool that everybody uses to connect non-MetaMask wallets, unless they're Rabby, it just doesn't play nicely with PulseChain yet, unfortunately, and maybe ever. So it's very, very difficult to get those integrated correctly to do all of the things that we want to do. It's not just for the end user, it's also some stuff in the back end for us, because we're doing on-chain transactions and the user is doing on-chain transactions. So there's two different things going on there. But hopefully in the very near future, we'll have Wallet Connect working so that you can connect a Pulse wallet or an Internet Money wallet with the Coast app.
Gotcha. Yeah, just while we're talking about comparisons too, I was thinking, okay, how's TUSD and CST? Those are pretty similar. How is they different than USDC and how it works?
Yep. So that's a really easy way to explain the difference, right? Like CST and TUSD would be in one bucket. They're fully collateralized stablecoins. They're one-to-one backed by a dollar deposit in a bank account. We actually have some of the most transparent analytics on proof of reserves in the industry. You can see live in real time what our assets are in the bank account and what their circulating supply of CST is. And you can see that actually CST is over collateralized because a certain number of users have added funds from their custodial account to the collateral account and then never minted their CST. And we try to catch up with them as often as we can to be like, hey, Denise, could you please go and mint your CST to get us back into ratio? But you'll notice that we're actually over collateralized by a few $1,000s. We've never been under collateralized. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's as close to impossible as I can imagine for us to be under collateralized. And that's not the case with USDC or with USDT or DAI, because they all use different models for how they collateralize their stablecoin. Some people do it with bank deposits like we do. Others do it with treasury bonds. Some people do it by just buying the S&P 500. I've even seen some people try to collateralize stablecoins with real estate or gold or silver. So you can collateralize a stablecoin with anything. The key thing, though, is it redeemable, right? Like if you come to the Coast website, I can say with absolute certainty, you'll be able to burn a CST and receive a US dollar at any time that you need to, because there are not more CST in circulation than USD available in banks. So it's not possible for us to wind up in one of these, Silvergate type situations where there's a run on bank deposits and we've put all of our capital in some sort of long-term yield product. Like that's just not happening. It's all in an FDIC insured bank account. So in the event that every single CST in circulation, someone wanted to buy them all up and burn them, we would have cash to be able to give back to them. And, it'd hurt us in the short term because all the liquidity would get destroyed. But, it's the most honest way to go about releasing a product like this. Stablecoins, fully collateralized stablecoins like the one that we have and like TUSD are the way banks should operate. And if there was no Federal Reserve, this is how they would operate because this is how they used to operate. The only way to be able to lend out a dollar was to get a dollar in deposits. The same way through CST, the only way to mint a CST is to put a dollar in a bank account first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's, of course, we've seen the effects and some of the downsides of having things not backed in the broader economy, at least. But I mean, there's a reason why, it's not like this whole dummy issue of why it exists, right? Because to help the economy grow by lending and these events, why they're rare, they do happen from time to time, but it's all about maximizing growth, right? Is that why we don't do banking that way anymore?
Yeah, I mean, the whole economy now is built on credit, right? The government's borrowing more than ever. Individuals have the highest credit card debt that they've ever had. We've got interest rates going through the roof as a result, which means it's really expensive to try and make payments on all of that debt. We're luckily not in one of those situations, right? We're never going to mint more CST than our than are backing the CST. So when you're in an environment of debt, it's nice to be able to de-risk into something that you know is fully collateralized. And so that's what we're going to continue to be. You won't find, millions of CST just being released onto the market without backing. Even though, our mint rates are 10, 20x what our burn rates are, it's just not the right thing to do. So, it means slower growth for us, and it means less utility in the short term, but it means that you should be able to have confidence that you can use the burn product as intended, because burning and being able to get back to US dollars in your bank account is as important as being able to mint it using dollars in your bank account. Because if you can't redeem it, it's not a stable coin.
Denise is killing with questions today. This is not a good point as well. So does it look like an escrow account to use your bank account, not a crypto transaction? We've heard about different banks saying, hey, we're not interested in servicing crypto stuff. Go find another bank. All that. It's kind of crazy. Like you always, the conspiracy is, oh yeah, it's going to happen one day, and then now you see it happening, and you're like, what is going on? Especially when the big banks are getting into crypto. That they're the plans, the bug eaters and stuff the plans are being laid. Who knows? I have to watch more Air Friend Summit videos to find out more about that. But what is it? I guess in the case of CST, is there any? I think I saw you answer this a little bit on Twitter before too. Is there any risk to, or is there? Is it? Does it look like a crypto transaction, or what should people worry about that type of stuff when they're transacting with it?
Yeah, this is a good question, Denise. Keep in mind that when you're moving capital into your Coast digital account, you're moving money from your bank account, wherever that happens to be, anywhere in the world, to your bank account with us, right? You are not actually purchasing anything when you fund your digital account with Coast. You are just moving funds between two accounts that are in your name. So as a result, if you're sending funds from yourself at one bank to yourself at another bank, this shouldn't raise cryptocurrency fraud transaction risk, because it's not something that would be likely to be fraudulent. We've only had one case of a potentially fraudulent transaction that we caught in 6,900 transactions so far. So like our ability to catch fraud is very, very good, and we stop it before it actually gets done. But it's very unlikely that people would commit a lot of fraud moving funds in that way. So is it like an escrow account in that sense? No, not necessarily, but it's more like, you've got an account with BOA and you've got an account with Chase, and you want to send money between the two. It's much more like that than anything else. On the back end, it's a little bit more difficult though. So when you take a withdrawal via an ACH, Fortress TC, as in Fortress Trust Company, will be the name that's mentioned on the deposit. So if in the event that your bank is hostile to crypto, I would expect that they would pick it up at that end more so than they would on the funding side. So if you're taking withdrawals and they see Fortress TC, they might do some research into what that means and potentially get upset with it. But for the purposes of adding funds to PulseChain, no, you've got an account with BankProv. You give your details for BankProv to your bank via either Plaid integration or via a wire, and you should be fine. In the event that your bank asks you the purpose of your transaction, I would be very honest with them and just say, I'm sending money from my checking account to my trust account.
Wow. Just comment on this too. Transfer between two bank accounts, not a crypto exchange. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is no cryptocurrency transaction going on when you move US dollars within Coast. Even for the purposes of moving funds to acquire CST or mint CST, you're still not exchanging a US dollar for a CST, because the CST doesn't exist until you create it. So you fund a collateral account and then you have the option to mint your CST, but you don't have to exercise that if you don't want to. In fact, like I said, because we're over collateralized for the specific reason that some people have chosen not to. So it's not a matter of like, we have the CST and you give us US dollars and then we send it to you. You have to create it for yourself. The same way when you do a hex transaction, you're creating the hex out of thin air when you end a stake, right? It's the same sort of model. It's the same ethos that we followed when we built it, because we were long-term hex people. So yeah, we built it on that basis, and that's what you can expect. So you shouldn't have a cryptocurrency transaction either funding a digital account or even when you're within our ecosystem. which sounds counterintuitive, right? Because we're giving you a way to get onto PulseChain, but yeah, that's just how it is.
You burn and mint your own coins. I love that principle. Very under talked about principle in the ecosystem as well, including not your keys, not your coins, and otherwise. Say out to the chat real quick before we start to wrap up here. What's up, Vets? Welcome. Sloth is here. He's only 45 minutes late. He must drink a lot of coffee this morning to show up so early. And what's up, Big Boy Garms? Can't believe this fully collateralized cash. It's going. We have a lot of people building products going out of their way to make sure they avoid failure. Like, that is the cool thing about this ecosystem. These kind of principles we just talked about, like these, it doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean everything's bug free or any of that stuff. It just means the intentions and the principles are clear and a lot more healthy than a lot of other stuff going on out there. So that's what we can appreciate about this.
You have to, because it's so easy not to, right? There's so much money to be made in this industry by not being ethical and going out there. Like, we could just mint an enormous amount of CST and put it on chain and just call it a day, right? But like, then it's not redeemable and it doesn't hold its peg and it's not doing what it's supposed to do, right? Like, you have to be ethical, otherwise you're not going to have long-term success. And the whole point is for PulseChain to be successful. The more things that we have on the chain that look like scams and people having complaints about it, the worse for the whole image of the chain. So we have to do things right. We have to do things by the book. We spend an inordinate amount of time dealing with regulators directly, writing letters of opinion, asking for feedback, making sure that we've got all of our bases covered from a regulatory standpoint, because you just have to do that stuff, right? Like, so the reason we have weight as a discount token as opposed to a yield bearing token is because we had extensive conversation with securities attorneys, and that costs money, right? Like, but you have to do it. You have to put the time, you have to put the money in on the front end so that you've got a good product so that it works long term.
Got a couple more questions, and then we're going to end the question period here in a minute. John Kim says, would there be a time when no longer have to put in our personal information to have a debit card account but use our blockchain addresses?
Not within Coast. I'm sorry, John. In fact, we don't have debit and credit card access now. My suggestion, if you want to use either of those things, would be to do it through Wise, because they'll have better rates than we can give you. We've looked at different options for this, including like Currency Cloud or Stripe or various different payment providers. And ultimately, like, we're just going to keep giving them money. Like, you're going to give them your money. We're going to give them our money. We're going to operate at a loss. You're not going to get as much cash on chain. It doesn't benefit anyone but them. So let's just not do that. And I know that it's it requires creating another account, and that's annoying. But once you get used to using some of those tools, it's actually a pretty seamless interaction. So no chance that you'll be able to use our service without personal information, and more than likely you won't be able to use it with a debit card either in the short term.
Question from Vets. Please speak to entity registration.
Yeah, covered this a little bit earlier, Vets. You can create a business account with Coast after you have created a personal account. So every business account within the Coast app is secured by a, I think it's a verified, or no, I'm trying to remember the name. Never mind. Every business has to have an authorized officer, basically, who's at the business. If you own 25% or more of the business, you can be that officer. So you can't just create a business account without that personal or that person attached to it as well. There has to be an individual who's responsible for it. So once you've created a personal account, then you can go into the settings page, and there's a simple sign up for adding a business account. You can create as many business accounts as you like within the app. I switch between half a dozen for different ways of managing collateral and managing the business and the software and whatever else. So I've seen people add half a dozen. I've seen people just add one. The only sort of limitation on that is you can't have two owners of the same entity. So let's say you and your wife are both 50% owners of a retirement fund. Only one of you can have the entity in your Coast account. We've never seen this come up as something that would be an issue for anybody. No one's ever wanted to share an entity before, but that is the only thing that we've sort of thought down the road and figured, oh, that could be an issue. That's the only thing. So as long as you have an operating business, an EIN, if you're in the US, you'll be able to create an account in the name of your business as soon as you have a personal account set up. And it can be any sort of business as long as you have an EIN.
Gotcha. I just want to wrap up on this, just to kind of form the conclusion. This is the question I want to ask everyone during Founders Week. So just putting yourself in the shoes of another person in the community here. I've got my Hex tokens, I've got my Pulse bag, I've got everything going. Can you just kind of summarize, like, what would Coast do for me? Why would I buy a Weight token? What would using these services and stuff do for a person who's already kind of settled in the ecosystem and they're looking at this as a new product that they just came across?
If you like PulseChain, you should want to have all of your assets on PulseChain and be able to cut out the use of the bridge and Ethereum as middlemen, right? We're trying to remove middlemen as much as we can. Right now, Ethereum is the main way that people get onto PulseChain. Well, you can cut that out. You can stop giving Ethereum validators fees. You can stop paying fees to the bridge if you want to. And instead, you can interact directly by minting and burning a native stablecoin on PulseChain. This means that you have fewer attack vectors. It means that you don't have the potential to have your address blocked by VC-funded companies like Uniswap or Circle or any of these other entities that could potentially be hostile to Richard Heart products or Richard Heart services, which we've seen in the past. So if you want to remove those threats, you want to remove risk, and you want to have more sovereignty, then we can give that to you through Coast, and hopefully we have. I think 3,200 customers in the space of 9 weeks is a pretty good vote of confidence. I don't think you'll see many people saying things about us online that are negative. We tend to have pretty solid customer support. I think you're going to get better customer support from us than you will from most other cryptocurrency-based apps, purely because we're interacting with people on an individual level with bank accounts and private information, and we're handling live chat all the time. So if anyone has any issues, I'm the primary person behind the live chat feature on the website. You can get me not quite 24 hours a day, but close to it, and we'll be able to help you personally. So I don't think you'll get that from many other services, not even the Circles or the TUSDs of the world.
Not from the Circles, the Triangles, the Squares, none of them. 0x Coast has you. They have that live chat feature with Stoic's name on it. I saw it. But another thankless job, Stoic. Jeez, I don't want to take that job, man. That's all you on that one.
It's I'm not going to say it's fun, because it's not. But hey, we get it done.
Yeah. Well, and again, always a pleasure to talk to you about Coast, talk to you about stable coins, and otherwise. What we did, a LP. Anyone's interested in learning more about LP, did a couple of those AMAs, one with Stoic and who was Sam Soul. You and Sam were, I think, on the first one. Did one with the CryptoSloth, who's in the chat as well. So a couple of LP AMAs earlier in the year to learn more about that. Of course, since PulseChain launched, there's PulseX and stuff now. Other examples were mostly based on Uniswap, but a lot of similar concepts. Figured that out. So wealth of knowledge in that, and many other things. Apparently become a banking expert as well, at least in the last year or two, from all the work and stuff you put in there. Pretty amazing, man. Glad to have you in the ecosystem. Glad to see you're building, and just like a lot of people out there, trying to improve things for people in specific ways where you have the talent and the work and the opportunity. So incredible to see. Thank you for kicking off Founders Week. And what do you want to take us out on? What's good? What's positive? What do you see in the ecosystem that's interesting, or what do you want to share?
Yeah, the last thing I want to touch on is just that next feature that we'll have dropping in a couple of weeks. If you're trying to onboard people into the PulseChain ecosystem and they're having trouble with getting Pulse to start doing transactions, we will have a gasless swap feature in the very near future that will allow you to go directly from Fiat to Pulse or wrapped Pulse or PulseX or anything else that you want on chain. That way you don't have to onboard people and give them some Pulse to start doing some transactions. So it's better than a faucet. It means that they can just buy it straight away. So we should have that out maybe 2-3 weeks. That'll be the next big feature that we have available.
Gasless anything sounds very, very cool, and so hot right now. Coast, keeping it up.
It's not technically gasless in the sense that it's not that there's no gas used. It's that at least you don't have to pay for it. We will.
Okay, so yeah, somebody's paying. Nothing's free in life. Somebody's paying for it, but hey, I'm glad we got some benevolent payers out there to help people get started and stuff. Very cool, man. Thanks everyone for joining. Lots of good questions today. Shout out to Denise. You got the number one questions today and comments, and really driving the conversation forward with my limited notes and a few stats I wanted to show as well. But Yeah, man, thanks again for coming on. And yeah, like I said, if you want anyone Coast, anyone else that I have on this week as well, if you want to come back Friday we have demo day starting around 4 o'clock Eastern, where people can show up, you get 10-minute slot, and you can demo your website, your product, whatever it is within the ecosystem. People can ask questions or otherwise. So again, man, thanks for coming on, and it's been a fun one as usual.
No worries. Thank you, sir. I'll be back soon.
Sounds good. Everyone else out there, Scivive and 5555. We'll see you tomorrow.